Welcome to the Beginning Band COVID Companion, Distance Learning for Band. Even though we've already played some notes together on the snare drum when we were discussing full strokes, natural strokes, taps, downstrokes, upstrokes, we're going to talk about some other snare drum techniques that we haven't covered yet. The first technique I want to talk about in terms of your first notes is a flam. Now, a flam looks like a very small note attached to a normal sized note. The small note is referring to the stick that happens just before the beat. In order to play a flam correctly, you're going to want to start with your sticks intentionally at different heights. This is going to mean that if they travel at the same velocity, they're going to strike at two different times. If we're combining alternate sticking with our flams, it means that sometimes our left stick is going to start high. That is called a left flam. Sometimes our right stick is going to start high. That's called a right flam. A drag is very similar to a flam, except you're going to have multiple strikes before the big note. So if you see two small notes next to a normal sized notes, it means that you're going to have two strikes with the smaller stick and then the follow-up on time with the large stick. Alternate sticking would dictate that the next time I have a drag, it would be the other way around. This would be called a left drag. A very common technique with outside marching band snare drum playing and some special technique concert snare drum playing is called an open roll. An open roll is metered, meaning that you're going to have a prescribed exact number of notes in your roll. Very commonly, you can have two strokes with one swing of the stick. And in rapid alternating succession, you might get an open roll. You want to make them even as smooth as possible. The next thing we're going to talk about is the closed roll, which is more commonly referred to as the multiple bounce roll. And as you can guess from its name, you're going to swing one time and it's going to bounce multiple times off of the snare drum head. And this is what you're going to see predominantly in your concert snare drumming. I love having competitions with my friends to see how many bounces you can get with one swing of the stick. I also like to see how even and smooth I can make them. Good luck playing. Now, it's time to start talking about your first notes on your mallet instrument. If you are a piano player, you have an awesome head start in the realm of percussion because every pitched percussion instrument follows the same pattern as the piano. That's awesome. On my left, I have the lower pitched notes. On my right, I have the higher pitched notes. As we travel from left to right on the keyboard, the alphabet will go forward. For instance, this is A. If I go over one note to the right so that the pitch is higher, it's a B. And that will continue A through G. After G, it just goes back to A. We never see H in band class. If I want my notes to go to the left so that the pitch gets lower, we need to go backwards in the alphabet. So if this note is an E, and I want to go down one note, which is another way of saying go one note to the left, it needs to be a D. You may be wondering what all of these notes are up here if they are not A, B, C, D, E, F, or G. The notes on top are where our sharps and our flats live. Some people wonder, well, why are we missing a few notes? We're actually not missing those notes. The instrument is not broken, and it's also not random. The reason for there not being a bar here is because these top row, also known as black keys, are supposed to take care of notes that have half steps in between them. So for instance, this is F. F sharp is a half step higher before we get to G. So one can say that F sharp is a half step between F and G. So why not this one, you ask? And it's because, if you listen very carefully, this E and this F are already a half step apart, so there's no reason to have a bar up here. It's not missing, it's just not necessary. Anytime that you're traveling up and to the left from a lower key, or a white key, up to a higher key, which is a black key, it's going to be going flat. So if this is A, and I go up and to the left, that's A flat. If I ever go from the lower row to the top row, and I want to go up a half step, it's going to go sharp. So this is G, and this is G sharp. You'll notice that A flat, A flat, I'm going to keep this stick here, remember that that's A flat. G sharp, A flat and G sharp are actually the same note because they live on the same bar. Anytime that they look the same and sound the same but go by different names, that is called an enharmonic tone. Now I have turned the instrument around so that from my perspective it's backward. This is so that you can see on your screen how the keyboard is laid out from your perspective as a performer. You'll notice that there are no letters or numbers anywhere on any of these bars. So you may be wondering, how do I know the name of those notes? Here's how. You'll notice that on every keyboard instrument in the percussion family, including the piano, has a pattern on the top part of the instrument of either 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, or you may see it in a pattern of 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2. It doesn't matter what percussion instrument you play in the world, it will always go in that pattern. Anytime you see 2 up on top, the note in the middle on the bottom row is always going to be D as in dog. And using our alphabet, that means as you go to the right, D, E, F, G. Another way to figure out your pattern is by looking at the sections of 3 on top. If you'd rather start at the beginning of the alphabet because you're organized like that, you can look for the 3 pattern and know that the one just to the right of center is always going to be A. And if you continue going to the right, it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, until you run out of keys. And as you move to the left, it's just the alphabet backwards. So you have A. What's lower than A? Well, it's not H, so it's G. And just going back in the alphabet, F, E, D, C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C, until you run out of keys. That is how you can find every note on the keyboard. No matter what color it is, no matter what shape it's in, it will always follow that same pattern.